So are there any questions that someone wants to put in the chat or raise your hand? I see there is a question in chat, Anaki. It said, it seems like there's too much competition between flowers to get the few pollen grains. Is reducing the number of flowers either through girdling or other means an area that we should be looking at?
Okay, that's an interesting question. I don't think there is competition among the flowers to get the pollen grains. I think the problem there is mainly the lack of insects to pollinate, or the lack of enough pollen grains in the male flowers. There could be competition between flowers in the same inflorescence to produce fruits. Like for example, when we remove the flowers from the inflorescence and we pollinate just 5 or 10 flowers only in the inflorescence, we are able to get a higher yield per inflorescence that if we keep all the flowers in the inflorescence. So there's competition between flowers for resources in the inflorescence, but not so much about pollen grains, because that will depend on the number of insects in the orchard, and also on the availability of pollen from male stage flowers.
So we have another question here for you, Anaki. Is what fertilizer program would help increase starch in the flowers?
Well, what we don't do is to increase the fertilization levels. What we do is to fertilize differently. So the amount of fertilizer is the same all year round, but now instead of not using fertilizer in the winter time, we also fertilize in the winter time. So we use the amount of fertilizers during the rest of the year, but we include the months, in our case, from November to February that we didn't use to apply fertilizers before. But the amount of the year is the same. It's only a different distribution.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that would be something that we can discuss in the next session at the end of this month, as well as the timing. That'd be great. So we have another question, and this touches upon a topic that was in the last session. Does the presence of a variety of wildflowers in the grove improve pollination by increasing the number and variety of insects? So I'll let you answer that, but I'll just make one comment before, is that at Farm ACW down in Fallbrook, it's been a long-standing practice that they let the wildflowers grow, and in particular mustard. And it's well known that mustard is a good pollen source for honeybees. And so that helps the strength of the hive while you're using them for pollination. So that's very important. They need to have both nectar and pollen to sustain the hive. And so having wildflowers potentially also is good, because you're providing another food source for the honeybees.
Yeah, completely agree. There was a common understanding that if, of course, honeybees don't like so much the avocado flowers, and they prefer other flowers. So people were thinking, okay, if we remove all the flowers in the orchard, because I mean, you have like citrus trees nearby the avocados, you see that most of the bees will go to the citrus trees. So growers were thinking, okay, let's remove all the flowers from our orchard, and then we'll just keep avocado flowers in the orchard. We're seeing now that this is not the case, that if you leave the wildflowers in the orchards, of course, most of the bees are going to go to the wildflowers, but that's going to increase the number of bees, honeybees, and other species of bees in your orchard. Most will be in the wildflowers, but some of them will go also to the avocado flowers. And as Marilu was saying, the strength of the colony also will be higher. We don't know now. We're doing some trials, keeping the wildflowers in the orchard, and then we're going to try to cut the flowers just when the avocado starts to flower, to see if we can increase the number of insects going to the avocado flowers. But our experience is that it's better to keep wildflowers in the orchard, and also that's going to help you also with pest control, because those wildflowers in the orchard are going to be able to promote the presence of beneficial insects to control Persea mite and other pests that you may have in your avocado orchard.
Okay, that's great. So we have two more questions for you. Have you done any evaluation as to which avocado trees are the most effective pollinizers for specific varieties such as gem or reed?
Well, that's an interesting thing, and I didn't show the results we have on reed. In Spain, reed flowers in May, late April, early May, and there is no other pollen available for reed at that time. So when reed flowers in Spain is the latest cultivar to flower, and there is no any other pollen source. So 100% of the fruits of reed, they are self-pollinated. And in our case, reed, the yield per hectare is higher in reed than in Hass. We've checked also the number of pollen grains on the flowers and reed, and it's much higher than in Hass. The percentage of flowers in reed with pollen is higher than in Hass, and there are more pollen grains on the stem. So on the one hand, temperatures are better when reed flowers in Spain because it's May, so the temperatures are warmer than in March or April. So maybe that's better for the insects, for the bees. But we are also we've seen that the amount of nectar in the reed flowers is higher than in Hass. So maybe it's not only that temperatures are better, but it's also that the reed flowers are more attractive to the insects than Hass flowers. So here there's a good opportunity to select for avocado varieties which are more attractive to honeybees and other insects. We've done also experiments comparing pollen quality among different varieties. And in all the studies that we've done, for example, Fuerte is the one with the lowest pollen quality. So pollen germination in Fuerte is lower than in other varieties. And some varieties like Luna, for example, the pollen quality that we found was much higher than in Fuerte. So the percentage of fruit set after hand pollination with Luna or with Ettinger, for example, was much higher than with Fuerte. So there is a need also to explore this and to select for better pollinizer for Hass. Also, some results that we saw last year with gem indicates that most of the, if not all the fruits from gem are usually from cross-pollination. So also there is a possibility that some cultivars have a longer overlapping period than others. The longer the overlapping period between female and male flowers, the better the chances to get self-pollination. If your overlap in your variety is very narrow, less than 1 hour, then the chances to get self-pollination is lower. And I don't think that's been studied in detail, and that I think that will be a very interesting area of study comparing different varieties.
Thanks, Inaki. I know that in California, the reed is also just like you described. It's usually the last one to bloom, and it's usually by itself. There's no bee flower types out there, and yet we can get very good yields on reed. So there is something different about that variety for the reasons that you outlined. So just a second, I need to scroll up because now we've had quite a few comments. One comment is, let's find a better California native or a source of nectar than European species like mustard. I would agree. And if you remember from last time, we had a discussion about that Ben Faber and others have received a grant to look at that very topic. So we're going to be looking forward to seeing the results here in the next couple of years. Now, here's another one for you, Inaki. If winter fertilization increases flower quality, what is the ideal fertilization during flowering time?
Well, I wouldn't like to enter into fertilization in flowering time. I'm not an expert on that. What I can tell you is that the flower quality is established months before flowering. So it's not the fertilization during flowering time, but the fertilization like 2 or 3 months before flowering. So if the trees are not properly fertilized 3 months before flowering, the flower development is going to result in flowers with lower flower quality. So it's what happens 3 or 4 months before the blooming season.
Okay, so we have a question here. Does an individual flower open more than 2 times? Once as a male, once as a female. As far as I know, I mean, it would be a rare event for a flower to open more than twice. So
Never
it'll
seen that.
open,
It's only once.
yeah. Yeah, so it
Once as a
opens,
female, the flower closes, opens as a female, and it closes again, and that's it.
yeah. So it's female first, male second. When one examines avocado flowers, is it obvious which stage it is in, or does one find many flowers where it's hard to tell if it's male or female? That's a great question. It can be tricky trying to figure out closing female versus opening male. I have a little bit of a hard time looking at that. But the male flower, when it opens, because I remember Gotti Sham told me that the stamens actually grow when the flower is closed after it closes as a female. So the flowers are going to be more elongated and pointed. So if a flower is opening, you can sort of get that. But you also need to know the flower type and sort of guesstimate, you know, is it morning or early afternoon versus, you know, what time of day and what flower type you're looking at. That can sort of help you. But once these the PDF is posted on Avocado Source, go back to those flower diagrams and the pictures that both Anaki and I showed of male and female flowers. And or if you really want, I'll come out and we can maybe make a video. Maybe that's a good idea. I will see about us making a video with Marlon, who is visiting from Brazil, so that people can actually see the true differences out in the field and have it pointed out. So that's a great question. Do you have anything to add, Anaki?
No, I have a video. Maybe I can share the video. I don't know if.
Yeah, if you can, it'd be great. The
Yeah,
one
I
from,
will try. Yeah.
okay.
One sec.
So there is a question about it, are they using Luna as a pollinator in Spain and Portugal? So there's probably different ways to answer that question, but the Luna is just now being commercially released. So they would not have it, but Anaki has done research with the Luna in Spain. So maybe he can comment that after we see the video.
Yeah, but commercially it's not available yet in Spain
Yeah.
or Portugal. So no one is using that as a pollinator yet. So I don't know if you can see the video.
Yes.
See the video now? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you'll see this will be female flowers opening the first day of the cycle. This is high speed video, okay? They will close overnight. This will take a while. And then, so remember that the flowers that just open, okay? These two here. They're closed overnight. And then the following day, there are some flowers. I will stop the video. Some flowers opening as females, and keep an eye on these ones that opened yesterday, okay? So they open now, this they overlap. They will close the female ones, and these are the male flowers still open.
Yeah, and notice that those flowers
And you
were more
close.
pointed and elongated right before they open in the male phase.
And they will close, and that's the end of the story. And then the flowers that open as female, they will open again as male the next day.
That's a nice video.
And okay, so
Okay.
okay.
Here's one for you to comment on. We don't have any type B trees on our 250 acres, yet our pollination seems to mirror California overall. So I guess the question to you, Catherine, is where are you located? If you're along the coast, I'll relate a story to you that occurred to me when I first got hired. I knew nothing about avocados except that I grew up with them in our backyard in the San Fernando Valley. I went first to visit Bud Lee, who was the farm advisor in Ventura County. And I said, what is this thing about type A and type B? And do you need type B for type A? And he said, you need pollinizers. You need pollinizers. And all this work Bob Berg and everybody did, you need to have both A and B. The very next day, I went to visit George Goodall in Santa Barbara County, you know, very mild climate typically. Because you don't need pollinizers. You could get by with just solid set, but think about the differences in the environment. Then after that, I went to visit Don Gustafson in San Diego County, and he gave a very nuanced answer. He goes, well, it depends on where you are. If you are along Carlsbad and Leucadia and Oceanside, where we used to have a lot of avocado acreage, you could probably get by with no flower A and B. He goes, but if you're inland, like in Escondido and Fallbrook and it's Palma Valley, you need a pollinizer variety. And he went into a very detailed explanation of that. So I mentioned that to you. So Catherine, I see you're in Gaviota. It could be because you're in Santa Barbara County. You're in that ideal environment where you can get more overlap. So it could be just that. It's the environment, the humidity, etc. But maybe even in Gaviota, you could enhance your yields if you had pollinizers. We don't know.
Yeah,
So
there are some places in the world, like in South Africa, it's very common to have solid blocks of hass with very good yields. So I think it's an environmental, as you say, an environmental factor, and maybe with under some conditions, the length of the overlapping period can be extended.
yeah, remember that the slides from Gauri-Shyam that I showed earlier, that the timing of the overlap, the amount of overlap that occurred is also influenced by temperature. So Anaki, the question is, will you share that video that we can put on Avocado Cafe and Avocado
By the way,
Source?
it's not mine. It's in the internet. I can send you the link.
Send me the link and we'll put it on Avocado Cafe as well.
Sure.
Because that was great. Maybe we could do a little voiceover so that we can say, look at this, look at that.
Yeah.
So great. Any other questions? Any comments? Someone wants to raise their hand. It doesn't look like it, Anaki. So you're off the hook? Someone has their sound on. So I want to remind you, we have another Avocado Cafe coming up on fertilization on the 27th of February. If you have any ideas for future topics, we're having a planning meeting next week to talk about topics for future Avocado Cafes. So let me know, or Lorena know, if you have any ideas. We will get the flowering video on the Avocado Cafe and Avocado Source. And I will get Tim Spann's presentation, and I also will try to convince him that he wants to give it to me and we can record it, and we'll get that video up as well. So with that, I hope all of you have a wonderful day and hope to see you again soon at the next Avocado Cafe. And I want to thank Anaki for spending time with us from Spain. Thank you, Anaki.
Thank you all for being there. Thank you, Mary Lou. Good to see you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.